Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on December 6, 2021 at approximately 2:09 p.m. PST. Now, I was talking yesterday about one of my past lives. Back when I actually dealt with slavery. 1760-ish, as it were. Okay, now I explained if you listen to the video yesterday, there was a lot of build up to this. Something I do want to add before I get into it, though. Every lifetime carries its own. People over the lifetimes, even this lifetime, some of you have done really bad things and turned your life around to do really good things. Now, to be clear, this lifetime, I have, in all fairness, I've never even had a speeding ticket, which gives you an idea of how boring some of you may find me to be. But on this lifetime, back in the 1760s, I was a little less than, I wasn't as bad as I was on in some lifetimes. Did it again. So, since I can't figure that out, I'm going to have to, okay. Got it back without pausing it. Now, this is a live recording, which means that glitch that you just saw there, or that I expressed was there, I don't even know if it shows up. Doesn't matter. The fact is, I don't go back and edit. I double check the date, and then I post it as is. Now, everybody, like I said, everybody's done things wrong. In my case, in 1760, when I ran a plantation, I was not exactly following the law all the time. If you listen to the last video, as in the one on December 5th, I explained the start of this particular story. So I'm just going to pick it up where it left off. When I was running a series of plantations, okay, I had only bought 2 slaves, and there was a whole philosophy behind all of that, because you got to remember, whether people like it or not, slavery it's an ongoing human problem. I do not agree with slavery. I never did, in all fairness. But here's where it got a little screwy. After a slave had escaped from their slaver, from their owner, from the plantation they were working on, plantation owners would come to me because I made it very public that I would go after runners and I would bring them home. And there's a whole series of things that went on, but here's the reality of what I did, the other side, which was blatantly illegal, which is also why I never told anybody at the time what I was up to, except the people directly involved. I trained another group, not the group that went after the slaves, but I trained a group of people that were a little, shall we say, less adverse to following the law. And when I heard that a slave was getting beaten on a regular basis and could not get away, then I had these people trained. They would go in, this small cadre, special forces of a sort, would go in and kidnap the afflicted slave. They would take that slave out to a preordained location. I had a number of cabins out in the woods and out in the field I didn't tell people about. They were just log cabins that we used. So they'd kidnap this slave that was getting beaten. They'd leave the ones alone that weren't getting beaten, but they'd take the one that was being beaten, even if they were crippled, they'd take them out to the woods. And they'd sit there for a couple of days, and they'd literally bring they'd bring the person back up to health. They'd feed them, they'd get them some clothes and what have you. Then they'd bring them back to my place. At that point, I would go back to I would take that slave that had been beaten. I would take him back. I would go back and talk to the owner and go, okay, I've got your slave. I caught him. He is in my custody, but he was way more expensive. I can't tell you how he escaped. Yeah, I really can't, because I just don't know exactly how he escaped, which in all fairness was true. I didn't know exactly because I never asked for specifics. I said, I've got him in your custody, but he cost a lot more. So I would turn around and go, okay, I'll bring him back. But because of the expense and the fact that I ended up losing one of my people, which quite frankly was a blatant lie, but what the heck? I was already in it, as the saying goes, in for a penny, in for a pound. And I tell the guy, okay, it's going to cost you not $10 more. It's going to cost you $100 more to get that slave back. You're either going to pay it or I'm keeping the slave. I put the effort into getting him. That's the way it goes. 99% of the time, they would pay me they would tell me to keep the slave. Right? If they didn't, then we'd go back through the routine again and the price would go up. Ultimately, what ended up happening, if you look at the long and the short of it, I was kidnapping these people, hang on to them for a few days, and then because what would happen is that we'd send them out, and of course, I forgot this little part. The kidnappers would grab the slave, take him to a cabin. Then the slave crew that I had hired to go and find them would go to the cabin in a circuitous way, join up with the people that caught them, right? And then they'd sit there until the slave was healthy, and then the collectors would bring him back to my place, leaving the abductors out in the middle of nowhere. Nobody ever saw them, except me on occasion. But with that in mind, more often than not, what would happen is I'd end up with plantation owners paying me to take their slaves, and then I'd go back to the same routine I did with the rest of my slaves. And understand, to me, they were slaves in name only. Okay, but you'll have to listen to yesterday's video to figure out exactly why. Now, this was blatantly against the law. Kidnapping is wrong. Trafficking people is wrong. And what I was doing was very definitively at that time. I felt that the trafficking, because of the fact of the way I was treating them myself, after I got them, yeah, it was called trafficking because I'd steal them from here and I moved them to one of my other plantations. I actually ended up with 3 plantations that I shuttled people between. Because on the whole, the people did not pay attention to which slaves were working on what plantation unless they were theirs. So I did very well for myself, but let us not forget. Yes, I was treating the slaves I ended up with very well. I was treating my employees the same very well as well. The people where I was breaking the law was kidnapping people that were getting beaten. Okay. Now, the kidnapping people, the trafficking them, moving them to somewhere else, unannounced, right, was absolutely wrong. But to me, it was the lesser of 2 evils. Now, understand, I am absolutely against slavery in today's world. There is no reason, functionally speaking, for it. Mind you, I also look at the way people are getting paid today. And if you're paying your staff less than it takes them to survive, you're going to have trouble hanging on to them. If you pay them enough to live on, not just survive, I should clarify that. If you're paying them enough to live on, your staff will work better for you. Now, I've been asked by a number of people over the years, okay, to explain some of the past lives. Well, that lifetime, in 1760 in southern Louisiana, I owned 3 plantations. Okay, now, I'm not going to go any further into it, but I will tell you this. Listen to it. I will get to other past lives as time goes on. They work great. These are things I've personally been through that I personally remember. Now, of course, we do have this problem. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for, well, since 1976, so 35 years now. Okay, 45 years. Yep, 45 years now. Okay, I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons. I'm a science fiction, science fantasy writer, but I also write in self-help, reference, and children's stories. So, do I have an imagination that'll work? Absolutely. Am I telling you absolutely believe everything I'm telling you? Not a prayer. That's up to you. But is it real from my standpoint? Absolutely. And I do have enough people that have corroborated bits and pieces of things over the years, actually fair chunks of it, that I just don't question anymore. This is just the way my life goes. You may well be experiencing this neat little problem of memories that you can't figure out. Why are you afraid of, growing up, I was afraid of horses and I couldn't figure out why. Okay, I found out why. That's another story for another day. but you may be dealing with phobias or personality traits. Like, for instance, why is it when you get a job, you always seem to find yourself working for some idiot that is really abusive or really causes you problems? You know, you're being nice this lifetime and you just don't understand why you're being drawn to this. Well, it may well be tied to a past life. Okay. So from that standpoint, that's where past lives can come in handy. It's, if you think of past lives in this fashion, a past life is like yesterday. Okay, it's just something else that you remember. Okay, and it does, you do carry the memories forward. This has been proven beyond, times beyond count, where people have come up with information, very detailed information, that they that they don't know where they got it from. A 5-year-old just does not know the layout of a cockpit. Sorry, just doesn't happen. Especially if they've never been in the cockpit before. Okay, but your situation, your tendencies may well seat from a different lifetime. The same as there are people when you first meet them, you may hit it off really, really nicely. It may be a beautiful connection that just happens like that. Okay. And the reason for that may be a past life connection, or as I've seen sometimes this lifetime, you may have had, and this is where life gets really twisted. You may have been abducted. You may have memories of being up on a ship and meeting people up in some sort of meeting room that's really covered in a lot of mist, kind of like dry ice fog. You may have met somebody up there and not realize you met them until you run into each other in the physical world, and then there's a sudden connection. I remember. Okay. I remember dealing with one situation where I met a young lady and I recognized her. We hit it off really well, and it turned out we had shared an adventure in a snowstorm in the middle of where the heck were we? We were in the middle of northern Ontario, just traveling down Highway 1 into Manitoba, and we got hit with one massive, massive snowstorm that locked everything up. And we ended up meeting initially in the middle of this snowstorm, in a little hole of a coffee shop. Okay. Some 20 years later, we reconnected doing psychic fairs. I mean, it was phenomenal, because we both remembered the event very well, and the conversation went on forever as we relived this memory. Same thing has happened to me with people from past lives. Okay, and I will get to more of those down the road, but here's the thing. Okay, if you've got questions, or if you've got thoughts about this, I would love to hear your comments in the comments below. Okay, if you've got a question or you've got something you'd like to say that you would prefer the rest of the world not to read, right below that list, you'll find a list of the different books I've written that are available to get a hold of. You'll also find a list of contact points by which you can reach me. Okay, reach out. I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible. One thing I'm aiming at today is as soon as I get done this video, today I will be answering a number of comments that have been missed. I've been just really tied up and sideways the last couple of days. Not an excuse, just a reality. Okay, but the big message that I came back here to pass on to everybody in existence is that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, the catch to that is it's going to require the assistance of virtually everybody. And yes, I am asking for you to join me on this quest, to join me on this journey, to make this world a better place, to balance out the inequities. Okay. That was probably said wrong. That should have been the inequalities. Okay. Every one of you holds down a very simple position, a very complex position. Every single one of you, regardless of what you think of the people in these professions. You're all teachers, politicians, first responders. Okay. You're all waiters or waitresses. You're all cooks. Every one of you holds multiple positions in this life. And you got to remember, the politicians in in big positions, such as presidents, prime ministers, that sort of thing, the higher ups, the CEOs, the people that have accumulated a staggering amount of money. Okay, and here's the ones that we forget about. People like Mother Teresa, that gave so much of herself over her lifetime. Okay, these are all people that are all doing things, certainly, and some of them are doing them very, very self-servingly. Like, I've always been a very firm supporter of the people that join the military, in the military or the police force or first responders, to protect their families, to protect their community. I've always been a firm supporter of them. However, I've always also questioned the guidance that the higher ups are dealing with. Okay, the decisions they're making. That's just me. Okay, and I'm not asking you to agree with everything I'm saying by any functional stretch. Okay, but when you have a goal in mind, if you've put a goal on hold for a long time, like I've got a lot of things I haven't gotten to yet. I hate that word. Yeah, I say that too. I have got a lot of goals I have not yet accomplished, but I was really happy. The gentleman that originally read the first transcript of The Birth of the Wolf Pack, I turned the transcript over to him for the end of an epoch, and this is the thing about this gentleman, and I cannot thank him enough, really. And no, I'm not going to put his name down here. He knows who he is. He went through the book, and he found a spot that both myself and my editor overlooked. A rather critical problem. Okay, and in a nutshell, here it is. The problem that he spotted was one of the primary characters, Blade. After a whole pile of things going on, the theory was he went to look for another one of the primary characters by the name of Dirk. Well, the problem was the way that I wrote it, and I completely overlooked it, as did my editor. Okay, well, Tanya is a third of the critical characters, and she goes, "So where's Blade run off to?" Right, and Jeremiah goes, "He went to find Blade," which, as you can see, is a bit of a problem. Well, what the person reading the manuscript said, he got back to me and he pointed this out. So I went back in. He told me what page it happened on. I went back in and corrected it. Net result: Blade is now actually looking for Dirk. Okay, so I had to make a couple of adjustments, such as delete the PDF file that I'd already made and open that door up. Okay, and my temperature is spiking like no tomorrow. So you're going to have to pardon me while I stand up and open the window here, and hopefully that works. Much better, I hope. Anyway, the gentleman that's reading the manuscript spotted this problem, so I went in and corrected it. Thankfully, it's the only problem that seems to be there. So now I carry on. As soon as I answer the emails, the way the rest of my day goes is I get done this video, I turn around, I get done this video, I turn around, I answer a bunch of the comments you people have left behind. Thank you very much. I will get to them. The idea is today because, well, frankly, they've been put off for a few days. I've been a little sidetracked and a little busy. No excuse, just the reality. Then I go through the front end of the end of an epoch and get the chapter lines, the chapter titles sorted around, and make sure that's all running properly. And then I'll carry on with stuff around the house and what have you. The thing is, and that's where this little issue here comes in. This neat little thing. I keep a sheet of paper so I can keep a list of goals together so I can get them all done. I've gone through about half of what I had listed. Now I've got to go back through and finish off the other half. That list, for those of you that don't know where to start, you've got your life to a certain point, you desire it to change, but where do you begin? Well, where you begin is right here, right now, wherever you're sitting, wherever you're watching this. Make a note for yourself take a look and spot the first thing you're not content with. that thing is the first thing you change. But break that down into 15-minute to half-hour projects so that you can get them done and start checking them off and feel like you got something accomplished. Very important factor. By doing that, you will feel more successful, more energetic, and more capable of dealing with the world at large. Okay, again, I'm not perfect by any stretch. These are simply the tools that I personally use in order to get ahead. Okay, so I do it. That's always the nice part. Now, the neat part about it from my standpoint is real simple. Okay, I've got goals in mind. I desire my life to go in a different fashion than what it's been going in. But I am making headway. Today was a nightmare where it came to the different hiccups I was running into. Technology across the board was not working. I was supposed to make 3 appointments, not one of them happened. Okay, none of one of them happened on time. 2 of them I dealt with in a way, but not a and one I ended up rebooking. So I did manage to get them sorted around, which is sort of okay. I don't like missing appointments. And I'm pretty certain you don't like missing appointments either. So take a look at where your life is sitting and go, am I content with what is going on right now? Because you can talk about what you should have done or what you would have liked to have accomplished, and you can talk about the things you're going to get done or you're planning on getting done down the road. But I will tell you this. There is no functional way that you're going to know for certain that a change you're making today or that a path you're embarking on right now is going to turn out and be as enjoyable as what you're expecting. Okay, I don't kid myself at all. Okay, there's a young lass out there that I have every intention. I'm already connected to her, so I'm not looking. And as one person put it, that's it. Keith is off the market, and I am. Okay, can I guarantee I'm going to have a perfect life with this young lass? Not a prayer. Am I going to do everything possible to make that happen on my end? The answer is absolutely yes. Okay. And one day she'll get it through her head that that is literally the way I'm looking at it. Am I expecting miracles? No, I gave up on miracles. Although I've been, if you will, privy to a staggering number of them. Not the least of which was that neat little one at 5 years old of walking out of the morgue. And the neat part there was it was actually corroborated. Okay, as a matter of fact, it was corroborated by the one person that I really needed it corroborated by, and you can't even talk to them anymore. But my father corroborated that little endeavor on his deathbed. With that said, it is very strongly encouraged that if you've found yourself separated from loved ones, if it's because your ego got hurt, if it's because your feelings got hurt, it may well be time to reach out and see what you can do about reconnecting with them. Okay. Lord knows I look at the fact that my parents passed away and I go, I should have reconnected with them better earlier. Do yourself a favor. Don't put it off any longer. This season right now, whether you believe in Christmas or not, is not the relevant point. Right here, right now, is a staggeringly good timing to reach out to those you've lost contact with. Okay. It is time to put the whole thing to rest. The whole path to rest. If you think about it, in the United States, the Hatfields and McCoys are a legendary feud that went on for years, and nobody remembered what it was about. How it stopped, I don't know. It's the same as the gangs that are fighting, the Bloods and the Crips down in the States. Now, the fact I don't get out much and I'm getting these names. Okay, did I talk to the Hatfields and McCoys? Well, it's technically possible. I honestly don't know. But it would have been a past life. Okay, the Bloods and the Crips, I have talked to members of the Bloods. Not of the Crips, but I have talked to members of the Bloods in an amicable fashion. Okay, everybody has their story. You've got your story. Everybody you've ever met has their story. Okay, but it's time to put our negative past to rest. And something else here that I've noticed is the people that are going around destroying artworks, destroying statues and memorabilia and what have you from the past. It doesn't change the event that happened. It doesn't alter it. Okay. It may change, it will change the picture that you see now. But all that will tell you is there was this massive event, or the primary thing it'll tell you is there was this massive event that took place, this massive cultural shift that took place, and there was a monument put up for it. Okay, and then that was enjoyed. That was left there. It was just many people ignored it, right? But some people looked at the thing. But here's the thing: you destroyed that monument, and all you've done is destroyed the monument. You haven't changed the fact that a lot of people remember the event or remember the monument that the event signifies. I mean, think how you would feel. Think how much of a uproar would happen. You know, World War II happened, and we end up with these fields. And I honestly, and I'm really, really sad to say, I don't recall exactly where they are. But Flanders Fields is over in Europe somewhere. Okay, and I honestly don't recall where, but picture how much of an uproar there would be if somebody went out and started digging up, knocking all the tombstones down on Flanders Fields. Okay, even if they did it with even if they, didn't upset the graves, just knock the tombstones off. Picture what kind of a phenomenal uproar that would cause. Okay, because that is a monument. Okay, and I cannot tell you the horror that people went through that ended up on that. A good friend of mine was actually on the beaches of Normandy, and I know for an absolute fact he carried that whole event to his grave with him. He only died a few months ago. Okay, and I am happy to say, in my case, I can tell you he got over to the other side, reconnected with a whole pile of people he had lost during the war. That's one of those neat things about being an active medium, is I actually get that opportunity. But with that in mind, I'm going to bring this down to an end, and because we're at the half-hour mark here. But I encourage you strongly to put the negative past to rest. It is time for us to pull together, and working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I will be back again tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.